Hello viewers, and welcome to part 3 of Doomsday Emergency Radio. This one is going to be on your listening post and intelligence gathering. I'll apologize for the background noise, but every radio prepper has to do laundry, and now it's my turn. So some viewers had asked where to listen, what to listen to, who to listen to, what to listen for. And it's not really that easy of a question because it depends on your region, and these videos are viewed around the world, I guess. But where I would start, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, most amateur radio users have a plan to be on the air during a grid down period of time. In fact, it would not be normal for me to meet an amateur radio operator that had no capacity at all to be on the air absent grid power. With summits on the air where you take your equipment to the top of a mountain, or parks on the air where you go into a national or state or provincial park and operate there, you're completely grid independent. Where I would suggest you start if, an emergency event, the big kahuna goes off, whatever the case is, it's been a few days since the event, you're kind of hunker in the bunker, you need intelligence and information. What you want to know is how large is the power outage? What size is the affected area? What is the amount of damage done to the area? Are there any roads passable? Are there any points of concern, such as groups or gangs of people you'd rather very much avoid? So, to dive right into it, with this radio here, this is amateur radio again. It's the same thing as your Bofeng handheld, but it has a much better antenna, which I showed in the last video. You're going to want to tune between 144 and 148 megahertz, or you're going to want to tune between 430 to 450 megahertz, because your highest probability of hearing anybody at all will be over amateur radio. Bar none, it is the single largest independent radio service planet Earth has to offer. Independent citizens from all over the world have, or all participating regions and areas, I should say. There's some countries that don't allow for amateur radio, but there's independent amateur radio operators by the millions around the world. And every one of them, despite having or not having a tinfoil hat, is planning to be on the air during an emergency. So I would stick into the amateur radio bands, your highest probability of hearing anybody. And it's not government, as much as it is government regulated, the government is not involved in the sense that every radio operator is independent. If you're looking for commercial activity, depending on where you live in your region, here, instead of being in the amateur band of 146, you're going to want to look between 150 megahertz and 174 megahertz. And that will cover most of your commercial radio traffic, truck-to-truck, business radios, and that sort of thing. Some of which will be running DMR, so you'll have to scan these twice, and one time using a digital mobile radio. And then I would scan probably from about 450 to 520, 570, and that's going to pick up most of your 70 centimeter commercial radio traffic. It's in Canada. It is unlikely that you're going to pick up police, fire, or medical. This particular radio will not do it, but you should have a designated radio monitoring the airport. Air traffic control is going to be very, very important. It's federally regulated, and if anything very major happens before, during, or after, there is going to be air traffic. If a major event happens, you'll find all airports are ordering planes to the ground as fast as humanly possible. This was true during the September 11 Twin Tower debacle. All the airplanes were grounded. So listening to the airport can give you early warning. Listening to air traffic can give you the intelligence of knowing whether there are indeed airplanes flowing up there, or it gives you a bit of intel in that way. If you hear nothing and there's no airplanes up there, then your event is still ongoing. So I would be designating one radio to air traffic and another one mainly to scan the 2-meter band. On the high frequency side, as covered before, these radios are a bit different of an animal because of how many different bands they have. You really need antenna options. You really have to have a good grasp of antenna theory and electrical theory. Otherwise, you're just not going to get it to perform well. You can see on the band scope, there's all kinds of traffic happening, and this band scope will show you traffic on frequencies that you're not even listening to and allow you to shoot over there pretty fast. So right after a major event, the first thing I would do would be start listening to all of the amateur radio bands, particularly the high frequency bands. I would check your local AM and FM radio stations to see if there's anything there. But for the most part, high frequency radio is where you're going to want to do the bulk of your scanning, as it draws in signals from a far greater area. So you would use this radio to ascertain what's happening on your continent, in your region, and around the world. And then you would use this radio to give yourself about a 100-mile radius of where you are, depending on where you have your antenna. It could be as low as 30, 40 miles. It could be as high as 150, 160 miles. A lot of that just depends on interference, the height of your antenna, the proficiency of your location, and that sort of thing. I'll give you a look at the Canadian band plan, and I'll kind of go over it slowly so that you'll have time to write it down without pausing too much. All of the green is where you're going to find sideband traffic or AM signals, and as we get down, this yellow is where you're going to locate your FM signals. But this is a look at the Canadian band plan. Most band plans around the world are very close or similar, give or take a little bit of authorities here and there. Kind of go back over it for you. Now, these higher bands, you're probably not going to be able to access or hear much traffic on, and the antenna for them is huge. So the 80 and 60 meter bands, those are going to come alive more in the PM, in the nighttime. Evening and night will be 40. During the day, you can expect 20 meters to pretty much work all the time. And it is 20 and 40 meters are the two most popular areas of the band. So that's where I would kind of start. And then the rest of these, they still do pretty good. They travel quite well, but sometimes it's a little up and down, little local, little far. As for what you're listening to, any usable information at all. On this radio, you want to hear which roads are open, which roads are closed, whether or not there's any bad guys running around, if they're coming towards you. This radio is capable of receiving all of the signals that the Bofengs have. And the Bofeng UV5R, UV82, those radios, they are probably amongst the most popular for both good guys and bad guys. So scanning those frequencies or what they're capable of meticulously would be advised, because this is going to be your local radio and let you know if the trouble is danger close. This radio, on the other hand, is going to reach out a huge distance, and it's going to allow you to communicate with other people and find out how big the power outage is or the disaster zone. From my house in Calgary, Alberta, on 1 watt, I can talk all the way down to California. So putting this radio into full use, with its amplifier, I can get all of North America without a problem, all the way out to Hawaii. I've also had contacts in Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania, Sweden, Spain, and several other countries that are not even in my region, on another continent. So I think I'll wrap it up here. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I answered a few questions. Do leave comments in the comments if you'd like. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching.